Hello, everyone. A very good evening to everyone who's joining us live right now through Facebook, through YouTube. I welcome all of you to the Flip Side webinar series organized by Pick a Book Sri Lanka. And this webinar series is special. This is the corporate edition of the Flip Side. And my name is Ashinsani Veerasinghe. I'll be the moderator for this session today. So before we move forward, I would like to talk a bit about Pick a Book Sri Lanka. Pick a Book encourages the reading habit by getting all participants to select a book, read and research on it thoroughly, and present a summary, which also helps to hone his or her public speaking, communication, and presentation skills. By doing this, Pick a Book not only inculcates the habit of reading, but also helps to impart a wealth of knowledge. The objective of the Flip Side webinar series is to get the individual opinions and perspectives and also to share the lessons from outstanding books. Now, talking about outstanding books, I'm sure you're already aware about the books we're going to be talking about today. So today we're going to share lessons from two outstanding books. And the books are Who Moved My Cheese, which talks about an amazing way to deal with change in your work and in your life. I mean, isn't that something we all want to hear about? This is a book by Dr. Spencer Johnson. And the second book we're going to talk about today is Made to Stick, where it discusses about why some ideas survive and others die. Isn't that also a problem that we have? Why some ideas survive and others die? And this is a book by brothers Chip and Dan Heath. So to talk about these two books, we have two presenters, two guests today. And now let me take the time to introduce the two presenters to all of you. First of all, let me introduce and welcome Ishani Basnaik. Ishani is a software engineer at SDB Bank and a freelance graphic designer. She got her BSc in software engineering from SLIT and holds a master's in business administration from University of West London. She is the digital coordinator of Pick a Book SDB Club as well. She is also a public speaker and has been a Toastmaster since 2016. She loves to write as much as she reads. Her Instagram account holds a small collection of her poetry as well. Her favorite books are motivational books and romance novels. And she loves to reread books and challenge herself to find new perspectives. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ishani Basnaik.
Thank you, Ashin, for that wonderful introduction.
I think you deserve it. Welcome to the Flip Side, Ishani. And next, let me introduce Yasovarman Perinpanayaka. We call him Yash. He is from the hometown Batticaloa and he is schooled at Methodist Central College, Batticaloa. Education-wise, he has completed his BSc in microbiology from the University of Madras, and he has completed the MBA at the University of Colombo. Currently, he is the assistant manager in the garment dyeing and washing section at MAS Active. His hobbies are reading books and listening to music. Hello, Yash. A very good evening to you as well.
Hi, good evening and pleasure to be here. Lovely.
Pleasure to moderate this session with both of you readers. How have you all been?
Staying safe. Hope you all are the same.
Oh yeah, staying home and staying safe is important these days.
Yeah.
Right, so let's dig into the conversation. So let me first let you know that Ishani Basnaika will be taking us through the book Who Moved My Trees, a book by Dr. Spencer Johnson. And Yash will be taking us through the book Made to Stick, a book by the brothers Chip and Dan Heath. So to get started with, I would like to start from Yash first. It's important to understand what it's all about. So now, usually, every book, every good book will try to answer a question. What question does this book answer made to stick?
Yeah, that is the best way to start off reading a book or to know a book. If you know the question the book is trying to answer, then you can find the answer. You will look for the answer while you read the book. Therefore, this book tries to answer the question, why do some ideas survive and others die? Or in other words, why do some ideas stick and others don't? This is the question. Why do some ideas stick and others don't? This is the question this book tries to answer throughout the book.
I think that is a question that I think the viewers right now are also looking forward to have an answer to towards the end of the conversation today.
Sure.
So, coming into Ishani, in this book, Who Moved My Cheese, the cheese and the maze are metaphors. What do they represent?
Ashin, let me start with the story. The story was that scientists conducted an experiment whereby a mouse was put in a maze with a piece of cheese in a specific spot. Day after day, the mouse would go to that spot and eat the cheese. When the cheese was moved, the mouse ran to the spot, didn't find it, ran off to look for it elsewhere, never returned to the same place. Dr. Spencer Johnson, who left behind a medical career to write short books about life, knew about these experiments and created this story for himself as a way of helping himself get through a divorce. It was just a verbal story first. After listening to his friend and co-author of the book, The 1 Minute Manager, Dr. Kenneth Blanchard, he penned this book. Now, Ashin, can you see what Dr. Johnson's cheese and maze were? What he meant by cheese and a maze? For him, his cheese was his relationship. His maze was the unfortunate case of his divorce. The cheese is a metaphor for what we want to have in life, be it a job, power status, relationship. The maze is a metaphor for where you spend your time looking for what you want. Could be within your company, in the community, at home with your family. Moving the cheese means you're facing some kind of a change. You're moving away from your comfort zone. Let me bring out some simple examples. Ashin, cheese could be a lover or a sickness like lactose intolerance. What happens if your lover breaks up with you? Or you love your cheese but cannot eat it anymore? A change is happening. They are moving your cheese away. You find yourself in a drastic situation. You feel stuck. You feel like life is a maze that you cannot overcome. You are lost in a situation that is your maze. If I talk about current situation, I can relate it. Yes, we are stuck in a pandemic, COVID 19. How long has that been? 1.5 years now. Who else thought it'll be over in a week and life would get back to normal? How many of you here have lost their cheese? Be it a long distance relationship, a job, a loved one, an overseas opportunity. We were all excited for about 3 months, enjoying our time at home. Then what happened? Second wave came, third wave. We found ourselves in a maze. It was harder. to cope with reality and watch the rising mortality rate. It was unreal. We were stuck, had to work from home, had to wear masks. When a death happened, we didn't even have time to say goodbye properly. We were stuck in the same place of our own maze situation. Ashim, it was worded as simple as it comes, cheese and a maze. But how deeply extended the figurative insight, comfort, and a situation. I hope I answered your question.
Very well, Ishani. I think you nicely presented in a way that you brought out the relativity of it to our current lives as well, so that everybody understands what this book has got to do with life as well. So, thank you so much for that beautiful presentation and elaborating on what it's all about. So, coming into Yash, I would like to get a similar explanation, or would you like to elaborate what this book is all about?
Okay. This particular book is built upon an experiment. The experiment is called Tappers and Listeners and its Outcomes. That is the experiment. Then in early 1990s, the Stanford University professor and psychologist Elizabeth Newton did an interesting experiment with the students. She divided her students into two groups, tappers and listeners. The tappers were given a set of famous songs like Happy Birthday to tap, and the listeners were asked to guess those songs. And she did the experiment. The results were quite surprising because only 1 in 40 students managed to guess the famous songs like Happy Birthday. Only 1 in 40 students managed to guess the song. It was just about 2%. But the trouble is this: the tappers, the people who were tapping the rhythm, thought at least 20 out of 40 students would guess the song right. Therefore, the tappers were thinking the 50% of the people would guess the song right, but in reality, only 2% of the listeners guessed the song. Because the tapper knows the song and the song is playing in the head, she expects many people to understand the song she's trying to communicate. This is a common issue with all of us. Because when we communicate with others, we encounter this problem in our day-to-day life, be it personal or professional. This gap I'm talking about is the psychologists call the curse of knowledge. The curse of knowledge. Because most of the time we communicate ideas as if we are the audience, and we forget that our audience doesn't share our knowledge. This makes our communication confusing or boring. I'll give you a few examples where the curse of knowledge in action in our normal life. Because brilliant scientists write papers almost no one else can understand, because hardly anyone else shares the same level of knowledge of the scientist. In your office, a boss or colleague gives straightforward instructions to the employees, but the employees are utterly confused. Even you spend hours putting together a presentation, which you find interesting, but the audience seems bored and distracted. So you spend a lot of time and effort in developing your ideas, but if you can't communicate them effectively, it's a huge waste. Then the curse of knowledge is a problem. Then how to beat this villain, curse of knowledge? Well, for our good luck, the authors, brothers Chip and Dan Heath, have come up with this wonderful, brilliant book called Made to Stick. And it's got some sticky ideas to break the problem, the curse of knowledge. Chip is an American academic and the Stanford professor on organizational behavior. and his younger brother Dan is an author and a senior fellow at Duke University. Now you might want to know what a sticky idea is.
Yeah.
A sticky, the sticky idea is the one you should be able to understand when you hear, and it should stay in your mind over time and should change the person's thoughts and behavior. There were 3 points. A sticky idea is the one you should understand when you hear and stay in your mind over time, and it should change the person's thoughts and behavior. Over to you.
Thank you, Yash. I think that was a like a well elaborated answer as well when it comes to the idea of the whole book. And at the start itself, I think we have set the foundation clear of what these two books talk about. And I think both the books talk about something very relevant to all of us nowadays, right? Adapting to change on one side and the other side. You're trying to communicate an idea, and how do you really make it stick in someone's mind, or how do you get an idea stick in yours? So I think these are important facts that we're talking about through books that communicate great messages. Now, moving into Ishani, I would like to ask, in your scenario, in your scenario, meaning the book you're referring to, talk about personality types. What are the personality types from Who Moved My Cheese?
Asheen, Who Moved My Cheese revolved around four characters in a maze. We have two mice and two little people. Now, this is one of the most ingenious character build-ups I've ever seen. This categorization instigates our curiosity even before we start reading the book. We start to ask questions. Why not four mice? Why not four people? They've been named as such. Two mice are Sniff and Scurry. Two little people are Hem and Ho. Just listening to these names, you can see the difference. Sniff and Scurry are more simple and intuitive. Hem and Ho, just as their name suggests, they are more complicated and like to contemplate stuff more. Let me summarize the story here so you can get a good knowledge of these characters. Once upon a time, two mice and two little people lived inside a maze. The maze is a labyrinth of corridors filled with dark corners and blind alleys. Some of these contain delicious cheese. One day, they all found this cheese station called Section C together, filled with cheese. They were all happy. Every morning, they went to the cheese station C and enjoyed their fill. Him and home even started their life and family around the neighborhood. They became so confident the cheese would always be there, they didn't notice what was happening. The Sniff and Scurry, however, noticed the supply of cheese was getting smaller every day and weren't surprised when one day there was no cheese left. They knew instinctively what to do. They didn't overanalyze things. They put on their running shoes and went off sniffing and scurrying in search of new cheese. Him and Ho spent a long time deciding what to do. All they could think of was looking around cheese station C for more cheese and continue to hem and hoe for several days. After a while, Ho decides to venture outside of cheese station C, even though he's scared. Hem refuses to move out of his comfort zone. Ho begins his adventure. He gets lost, gets demotivated, thinking about going back. So he puts motivational writings on the wall. imagining himself with delicious cheese. Then he finds his station in the biggest, chunkiest pile of cheese he'd ever seen. Huh! There was Sniff and Scurry. Their fat little bellies showed they'd been there for some time. What happened to him remains a mystery in the book. If I put it in a summary, Sniff is an innovator style. He's got the ability to sense and respond to change happening in the environment much more quickly than the other styles. He gets excited about creating new things and likes you to get excited with him. Scurry is a producer style. He's got the ability to run, and do the work from early to late. He gets frustrated when there are obstacles in his path and seeks to run around them or punch through them. Him is a stabilizer style. He's got the ability to make things systemized and controllable. In the story, it is him who gets left behind because change can be seen as a really big threat to someone who excels at control and stability. Hope is a unifier style. He's got the ability to empathize and connect well with others. In the story, it is Hope who follows Sniff and Scurry, but all the while is concerned about where him is and how him is doing. Ultimately, Poe leaves these writings on the wall for others to see, like him, and believe they will follow. Ashim, I think I gave you this detailed answer.
I'm pretty sure. I actually got lost in your storytelling, and I think I prefer listening to you than reading a book, Ishani. So that was really amazing. I think you brought out the different personality types in the book in a nice way. You actually summarized the whole story and brought it down so that everybody could understand the different types of personalities. And I think these are the types of personalities we as people also have to face when we come into a change, when we are to adapt a change or get adjusted to one. I think personality types definitely matter and they play a huge role. Um, Moving back to made to stick, Yash. Now you mentioned that about a sticky idea. That a sticky idea is an idea that should be able to understood by a person, and which creates behavior in the behavior and the thinking patterns, right? So there has to be a change. So what would you say is the best example of a classic sticky idea?
I can give you a good example. All the good ideas in the world don't
Sure.
become sticky ideas. Then how does a useful, true sticky idea look like? That is your question. You have to go back 50 years back in time, because today also I watched the Apollo 11 movie. In 1961,
Oh,
the US President John F. Kennedy called to the nation to put a man on the moon and return him safely by the end of the decade. I repeat this call: put a man on the moon and return him safely by the end of the decade. It was truly a sticky idea that influenced thousands of people, dozens of organizations across the nation in the better course of the decade. This particular idea has the 6 traits of a sticky idea. If you put together these 6 traits, it'll form an acronym: success. That is SUCCES. The last S will be missing from that success. That is the acronym. Then
okay.
it's a the first S stands for, it's a simple idea, because anyone can understand every word of that idea. Okay. The second one, U, is unexpected. because it was in 1960s. It was like a science fiction for the people because the moon was far away up. It was concrete. You can visualize it. You can have a picture in your mind when you hear that Kennedy's words. You can have a picture in your mind. People managed to picture a success, the moon landing. Then it was credible. This particular idea came out from the mouth of a charismatic leader of a great nation because he could put the required resources behind this project. It was emotional. United States and Soviet Union were having a race in every field those days. Therefore, United States as a nation wanted to reach the next frontier ahead of the Soviet Union in the space race as well. Because in the earlier years, the Soviet Union had sent the man to the space. Therefore, United States wanted to beat them. Therefore, it was a national pride. It was emotional for the people. It was a story in a miniature form. Did you see that the words accepting a challenge and taking a journey and returning? Therefore, it was a story in a miniature form. Then the hilarious part is this. Imagine if John F. Kennedy were a modern day CEO. He would have said something like this. Listen to this. Our mission is to become the international leader in the space industry through maximum team-centered innovation and strategically targeted aerospace initiative. Can you understand anything out of this? Fortunately, John F. Kennedy was more intuitive than a modern day CEO. He knew that abstract vision statements like that doesn't captivate and inspire people. This single idea that motivated the actions of millions of people throughout a decade. You just see the power of his words. In 1961, he uttered these inspiring words. In 1963, he was unfortunately assassinated by a gunman. But only in 1969, Neil Armstrong landed on the moon. From 1961 to 69, for the next 8 long years, John F. Kennedy's words were stuck and ringing in the minds of people, minds of Americans. Therefore, this is a classic example on how one should communicate, and John F. Kennedy knew it so well. Over to you.
I think that was a great example of bringing a sticky idea into place, because I think we got a brand new perspective about this whole story we've heard before, right, Ishani? What do you think?
Yeah, that's true. I've never thought of it like that.
Yeah, that's great. So okay, I took a little bit of time to process that as well, because I had to like rebrand the story which was in my head all these years. And
Between
now
cheese and
moving
sticky
into
idea. Between
yes,
cheese and
yes.
sticky idea.
I think this is a theory we should go by from now onwards. It's good that you read this and presenting this book, so it gets stuck in our heads also when we present an idea or when someone else, especially, I'm sure we won't be able to get such examples from these days what we hear from the TV. But of course, we as individuals, if we try our best to inculcate this acronym success and bring out a sticky idea, I think it'll bring success to our lives in real meaning, right? So moving into Ishani, coming to your book, Who Moved My Cheese, what would happen if you're not afraid of change?
Ashi, anyone who has ever read Who Moved My Cheese will know the importance of adapting to change, especially
Mm-hmm.
change created against our will. This includes careers, relationships, living circumstances, and as the years pass, even the time itself. Best example I can give you is this pandemic. Look around you. See what happened to the businesses that adapted to change. What happened to the businesses that resisted it? Take these virtual meetings, webinars, and lectures. What would have happened if I said, I can't understand technology? I can't work from home. I don't understand virtual meetings. Simply, you will cease to exist. That's because change is inevitable, whether we like it or not. As you can see from everyday news, kids, our future generation, climb trees and rocks to join online studies. No one has ever said that, Ashin, that adapting to change is easy. They are young minds and they are not afraid of change. Let me give you 4 pointers of what would happen if you are not afraid of change. We see things differently. Routine allows us to go through life without thinking too much. Change forces us to look at things with fresh sight. Example, working from home was a foreign concept before. We had to commute to the office through traffic and stay in the office for 8 to 9 hours, even though sometimes we didn't have work. Commuting back to home in heavy traffic. Now, almost all the employees work from home. Companies save bills, employees save time, and productivity increases. Second one, we have a beginner's mind. This is a concept in Zen Buddhism, referring to having an attitude of openness when experiencing anything for the first time. Only something unfamiliar can invoke this. In a new situation, we have no preconceptions and simply come back to who we truly are. Today, if you go through social media, we see so many exceptional bakers, designers, writers, new readers, YouTubers. I know this friend of mine in my workspace, a fellow software engineer who couldn't bake for life. Now she started a side hustle of wedding cakes and brownies. You know what's the
Wow.
amusing thing is she's a really good baker and they are very tasty. Third thing is we understand we are vulnerable. Changes allow us to remember we don't know it all. We don't have all the answers. Surprisingly, everything still works out okay, Ashay. Doesn't it? It
Yeah, it
helps,
is.
yeah, it helps us push us forward in our lives. We think, what else is out there? And if I went through this and survived, what else could I survive? We used to be like that, thinking we are invincible, eating junk food, drinking every weekend, disregarding family, thinking we'll have more time. Now look at us, eating healthy, wearing masks, washing hands, spending more time with family members, knowing a mere virus can wipe out nations in a matter of months. Fourth one, we are grateful. Ashi, change can remind us of how much we already have. When we go through change, we value what remains constant. It is a chance to remember that we are capable and whole. We also are reminded that we are much stronger than we think. Adapting to change allows us to be grateful for having a roof over our head, not living in an unsafe community, being able to afford a mask, having a school certificate, even getting the experience of playing outside as a kid. At the
Yeah.
moment you decided, Ashin, You're more afraid of extinction rather than adapting to the change. You become like hope, if you can remember in the story. You see strength in changing, even find solace in them. Change can be hard, fear can be a tool. Over to you, Ashim.
Thank you, Ishani. I think what I gathered from your story altogether is, from your answer rather, is that one shouldn't really be afraid of change, or like one should really be ready for change. Then I think one should be really afraid of being just where they are right now, without asking for change. It's all about taking risks when it and taking all your chances when it comes to change and adapting yourself. Am I right?
Yeah, you are correct.
Thank you. With that, now coming into Yash, I was more interested about this acronym, Yash, about the success acronym. You mentioned that the acronym success are the six principles. Which one would you say is the most critical out of the six?
uh, the most critical and the hardest that stands as the first letter, the simplicity. That is the most critical and the hardest of the traits. That simplicity is finding the most important part. Simplicity is all about finding the most important part. To explain this, we can look into an interesting study done by a famous trial lawyer in USA. In a trial jury, the courtroom will have a panel of jurors, and these jurors hear the arguments presented by the lawyers, and they get back to the jury room to analyze and make a decision. This is what happens. Then after every trial, this particular lawyer sent a research associate to interview the jurors. Then this is the study he did. Then the associates asked the jurors, during the interview, the associates asked the jurors, of all the arguments, of all the facts that were presented in the courtroom by the lawyers, which one really influenced your decision? That was the question they've been asking during their interviews, their study. The jurors said that though they were hearing 10 good arguments, then every one of them individually a blockbuster argument. By the time they get to the jury room, they don't remember anything. They say, though they hear 10 good arguments, by the time get to the jury room where they make the decision, they don't remember anything. So if you say 10 things, you say nothing. I repeat, if you say 10 things, you say nothing. That's a serious message, because we always want to say way more than 10 things about our current economic climate, our brand, or what makes our company great. Always way more than 10 things we want to say. But finally, nothing stays in the minds of people. Therefore, you must prioritize the most important thing. This is what the simplicity is. It's a process of prioritizing. You have to take out the second most or third most important things and make sure you don't say them until you say the most important thing. The most important thing is called the commander's intent. Then how to test a simple sticky idea? Then you can ask that question. How to test? How do you know that it's a simple sticky idea? Because a simple sticky idea can make decisions for you. You can make decisions based on that idea. Then you can be a manager or head of the department. You cannot always be in the room where your employees are making decisions. Your customers are making decisions. But if you have the right, simple, sticky message, it will make decisions for you. Here's a perfect example how simple idea helps in making decisions. You might have heard of the Southwest Airlines in USA. It's a very successful airlines company for many decades. More than 5-6 decades, they've been very successful. There's a shocking performance gap between Southwest and its competitors. The single greatest factor in the company's success is its dogged focus on reducing costs. Therefore, the Southwest company's commander's intent, the most important part, is we are the low fare airline. That is their commander's intent. We are the low fare airline. And in the story, the one day, a Tracy, a marketing person, comes into your office and she says, we have done some surveys and they indicate that passengers might enjoy a light meal on the Houston to Las Vegas flight. All we offer is peanuts. And she suggests a nice chicken salad would be popular among the customers or the passengers. Then you can easily respond thinking of the commander's intent. And you have the commander's intent in your mind, then you can easily say that the Tracy, will adding that chicken salad make us the low fare airline from Houston to Las Vegas? Because it doesn't help us become the unchallenged low fare airline. So we are not serving any chicken salad. Sorry. See how the commander's intent of a
Yeah.
company that is a simple idea is helping in making decisions. Over to you.
Thank you, Yash. I think that is something really important. Again, I think out of all the factors you talk, and everything has been important so far, but this is being simple. I think matters in every aspect of our lives, right? Whatever we speak, even right now, if you are unable to give out, present your books in a very simpler way, people won't understand what you're saying because people who haven't read the book also needs to understand what we are trying to say today. So
Yeah.
when communicating, being simple is important. I think that's something I was actually laughing inside, just thinking what I remembered as an example of a bad example is the travel restriction announcements we get these days. You get like 10 at once, and then you're like, when are they really lifting the restrictions?
Nothing sticks.
Yeah,
You go
nothing
out.
sticks in our mind. I mean, the situation, if you take it serious, it's a pandemic situation, but we get confused with the communication channels and we're like, can you be simple and just, it needs to stick in our head. They should probably read this book. um, Coming into Ishani, Who Moved My Cheese? Let's talk about the main message behind this book, Ishani.
Okay, Ashi. Let me start with a quote. Dr. Spencer Johnson says, life moves on, and so should we. Message from this book, it can break down this way. 7 attributes to change. First one, change happens. In the book, they keep moving the cheese. In real life, technology changes, aging populations, health issues, capital movements, migration flows, and the ever increasing ability to access knowledge ensures that change will continue to happen. You have to anticipate change. Snap finds courage. Who anticipate change find the new cheese first. In real life, those who can anticipate change beat the competition, whether it can be coaching methods in sports, share market movements, career, or medicine. We saw it with vaccines. Monitor change. The suggestion is to smell the cheese often so you know when it is getting old. In the real world, it may be about sensing when you or your company is in a rut and life is changing around you. You have to adapt to change quickly. In the book, the characters, except for him, learn that the quicker you let go of old cheese, the sooner you can enjoy the new cheese. In the real world, we often carry the baggage of fixed positions inappropriate for a changed environment. Next one. Change. Move with cheese. In the book, the characters who move with the cheese find new cheese and prosper, whilst him fades into obscurity. In real life, the people who actually make the changes needed in their life to accommodate changes in their environment succeed more often than those who do not enjoy change. The mice learn to move to the new cheese by trial and error, learning to anticipate change without thinking. Hope learns to savor the adventure of change and the taste of the new cheese. In real life, the journey of change can be enjoyed with the repeated excitement of doing something new once it is mastered. Be ready to quickly change again and again. In the book, the cheese keeps moving. In real life, change is not even constant. It is accelerating as technology grows exponentially or heavily when, let's see, when something like this pandemic happens. That's the message of change. Over to you, Ashim.
Thank you, Ishani. I think with that, we are coming into the final round of questions. Looking at the clock as well, being mindful about the time. So, coming into Yash in the final round of questions about the book. Now, we spoke about the most critical factor of the success acronym that we used for a sticky idea. But if you explain a bit more about the rest of it, rest of the acronym, or in line of how you would give attention to that acronym of success.
I may not be able to explain the rest of the.
Let's pick the important stuff.
Yeah, I'll give you a few. We saw the S, the simplicity. Then the second one is U, unexpectedness. Unexpectedness is all about people's attention. Then there are two essential questions about attention. How do I get people's attention? The first one. And the second one, how do I hold that attention? First is the question, how do I get people's attention? Let's watch this commercial. Sorry, I cannot play it, so let me elaborate the commercial. It's a popular commercial in USA. It's television commercial for the new Enclave minivan. You have to imagine this commercial, please. The television commercial for the new Enclave minivan opens with the Enclave sitting in front of a park. The beginning of the commercial, the Enclave minivan is sitting in the front of the park. A boy holding a football helmet climbs into the minivan, followed by his two younger sisters. Then a woman's voiceover starts, introducing the all-new Enclave. The dad is behind the steering wheel and the mom is in the passenger seat. The cup holders are everywhere. Dad starts the car and moves away. Then the voiceover says, it's a minivan to the max. The minivan cruises slowly through the streets. Then the voiceover continues with features like remote control sliding doors, 150 cable channels, a full sky view roof, temperature controlled cup holders, and the 6-point navigation system. It's the minivan for the family on the go. Then the Enclave minivan pulls to a stop at an intersection, a junction. The camera zooms in on the boy, gazing out the side window. The dad pulls into the intersection. This is where the things happen. A speeding car moves fast into the intersection and the side of the minivan. There is a terrifying collision with a metal buckling and an explosion of broken glasses. The screen fades to black and the message appears. Didn't see that coming? The question fades and is replaced by a statement. No one ever does. A few final words flash across the screen. Buckle up, always. This Enclave ad caught the attention of millions of people by surprise? That is the answer for the first question. How to get people's attention through surprise. The enclave ad is unexpected because it violates our mental model for car commercials. You would have seen car advertisements on TV sets. We know how
Yeah.
car commercials are supposed to behave. Then you would have seen pickups climb mountains or sports cars zip along vacant, curvy roads, and minivans deliver kids to soccer practices. But no one ever dies. On the other side, actually, this was not a car commercial. It was a safety commercial.
Yeah.
Generally, safety commercials are boring and sick. But this commercial caught the attention of millions of people. It effectively delivered the message because it broke the common pattern of safety commercials as well. This commercial reminds us that accidents are inherently unexpected. We should buckle up just in case. Therefore, if you want to get people's attention, use the surprise element. The second question, how do I, you can watch this advertisement on YouTube and you can get
Yeah, I should. I should.
quite a better idea. Okay.
Mhm.
Then the second question is, how do I hold that attention? In the first question, in the first example, you know how to get people's attention and how to hold that attention. But I'll tell you a small story. A famous social scientist, Robert Cialdini, he wanted to improve the way he talked about science in his classes. Then he was from the Arizona State University in USA. Then one day, he went to the library to find a compelling way to teach scientific lessons to his students. Therefore, he gathered a pile of scientific books to search for an inspiration. Then he flipped through scientific books. Then he found that most of them were loaded with scientific jargon and technical terms, and they were painfully boring. So then he came across, then he came across, and accidentally he came across an astronomy book that started off with a question. The question was, what is the most spectacular planetary feature in our solar system? The rings of Saturn? What are the rings of Saturn made of? The answer unfolded slowly like a great mystery novel. Cialdini had no interest in the rings of Saturn before he picked up this particular book. He practiced the same thing in his classes thereafter. He would introduce the mystery at the start of the class. He will return to it during the lecture and reveal the answer at the end. The same thing happens when you watch a movie also. You're eager to know how it's going to end. The sense
Yeah.
of mystery keeps you watch the movie till the end. If you want to make your idea stick, don't reveal your idea all at once. Create a sense of mystery. Then now you know how to create this unexpectedness. How to under that you have this how to get people's attention through surprise and how to hold that attention by the sense of mystery. Hope the
Yeah.
time is quite over.
It definitely served the purpose. Talking about the suspense, I think this is something uh, as I'm sure Ishani as well, into public speaking, we also learn it's not just about when writing,
Yeah.
when speaking, always keep the suspense and create unexpected scenarios and hold it so that the
Yeah.
audience
Twist.
get involved with you. Yeah, the twists, the plot twists, and we use these techniques. I think it's important. What people need to understand is it's not just about when you get the opportunity to write and speak, but this applies in our day-to-day lives. Whenever you carry out a news or whenever you break out a news to your family, it's important to practice these little things. Now, I would love to listen to the rest of it as well, Yash, but due to the
One thing
time
to add,
constraints,
one thing to add, because the
sure.
book itself started with that the question that like that scientist, the psychologist, psychologist said, did
Okay.
the question when you ask the question in the book itself, then you will look for that mystery. It's
Yeah.
yeah, you can find the answer in the book when you read. That's what happens in this book itself.
Yeah. I think that's a key element of all books, isn't it? Like you keep it for you have to read the book to understand what it's all about. Now, for example, when you ask who moved my cheese, is it really about cheese? No, but you want to know what it's about, so you have to read the book. So same with other books as well. So moving into Ishani talking about move my cheese in for the final question. Um, do you appreciate the way in which readers are free to interpret and apply the message for themselves? I think we spoke about the message a lot and how people can really relate to them. What is your thought about it? Do you really appreciate it?
Yes, Sashi, I like
Let's take a
how,
minute of time and briefly.
yeah, I'll brief it out. I actually like how Dr. Johnson turns these mundane ideas to something interesting. The how to approach is a little bit dark. True, it leads to the lesson directly, but doesn't let you experience the lesson, just like the parable. Having different interpretations make the concept altogether fun. This shows that you can modify it in your own needs. Take what you want and leave what is unnecessary. The book begins with a realistic scenario, a story within a story. In Chicago, a group of former classmates are enjoying a high school reunion. They're talking about how much all their lives have changed over the last several years. Then one of them wants to share a story he heard that has helped him face changes. And this is when the main story begins. The alumni discussion shows that the concept of cheese can be interpreted in different ways. Either way, it leads to making our life better. How to overcome a losing a good job, having to close some stores in the family business, and how to deal with new technology that made some old work obsolete. Shows a different way to look at relationship issues. It is a best selling business book, Ashi. Contains lessons of leadership, answers your relationship issues, but it is a very short, only 94 pages book, yet a powerful one, full of new perceptions. This is exactly why I chose this book. It looks really small, but contains a message as big as the universe. Simple yet powerful. Who moved my cheese? When it was first published in 1998, it sold about 21 million copies in just 5 years, and tens of millions more copies after that. This is why, just like Yash keeps saying, this book sticks.
Thank you so much, Ishani. I think with that, we have actually come to the end of today's session. I should say we have achieved. We pretty much achieved the objectives of today's session successfully of sharing lessons from two outstanding books. What I really liked about this episode of the Flip Side webinar series is that we didn't just speak about the books, but we actually related every part of it to the general life. And Yash to Ishani, they brought in the real life examples and examples that can really change our perspectives in different ways as well. So thank you so much to both of you. So in bringing everything in together, so we spoke about the two books, Who Moved My Trees, an amazing way to deal with change in your work and in your life, a book by Dr. Spencer Johnson, and Ishani very well presented it with saying like how it actually talks about adapting to change and how it's important to be ready to change and move with change and enjoy the change. And also she's mentioned that the book does not just speak about change, but along the line it speaks about the different personality types to leadership traits where you can learn a lot. Um, Coming into Made to Stick: Why Some Ideas Survive and Others Die, a book by the brothers Chip and Dan Heath, presented by Yash. He brought out the idea that he actually gave a sticky idea by presenting this book as well, I should say, how a sticky idea should, or rather, how an idea should be sticky, where a person can understand and change the you think and behave is important. Along the line of the success acronym, he nicely brought it out how an idea really should be simple, unexpected, concrete, credible, emotional, and story, and it should carry a story in a miniature form. I think that was well presented as well. So I think, along with myself, all of you who are watching us live right now got a good perspective about these two books. And I'm sure if you have read these books, you might bring in more perspectives, and it's all come in the positive long run. So thank you so much to the two presenters, Ishani Basnaika. Thank you so much, Ishani, for joining with us and sharing your ideas and perspective about the book. Thank you so much. And thank you to Yash. Let me get your name right before we close up the session. Yaso Varman Perim Thanayagam. Thank you so much, Yash. It was wonderful spending time with both of you, sharing knowledge and the sharing ideas of the book. So to everyone who joined us live, thank you so much. We would like to join you once again in the future with another episode of the Flip Side webinar series. So the purpose and the overview of Pick a Book is, it is an effort to nurture the habit of reading in each and every one of us by deepening the love for books and enhancing social interactions. And I think we achieved that purpose and overview through this episode once again. So thank you so much for joining for a wonderful episode of The Flip Side. This was a corporate edition. We hope to see you soon. So my name is Ashinsani Veerasinghe. I hope the moderation went well. Thank you so much. Join with us again soon. Have a good night.
Thank you for sticking around. Take good care.
Oh yeah. Thank you for sticking around with us, everyone. Bye-bye.
Perfect.
Have a good night.
Okay. Good night. Take care.
Good night.